Welcome along. This is Good Morning Transfers. Thank you very much to those of you who switched over from main event as well. We appreciate your company this morning. Time to talk about it's a big summer for, and we've picked out Leeds United today. The reasons for that, they've just sold Pontus Jansson to Brentford for an undisclosed fee. Will that mean that Marcelo Bielsa will be in the market for another centre-half? Remember, last season, injury and suspensions meant that they had to play central midfielders at the back. So will they want another centre-half? Second reason, do they need to replace Samu Says? Now, he left the club to go to Getafe. That put a little bit more pressure on Pablo Hernandez. Will he be forced inside to play the number 10 role? Will then Helder Costa, who's come in this summer, fill the void out wide? They've got youngsters as well, Jamie Shackleton and Tyler Roberts. Will they come in and make a starting 11 place their own this season? And the third point, the new contract hanging over Calvin Phillips. Plenty of interest in him from Premier League sides, and not just him as well. Kemar Roof has only got a year left on his contract. Significant few weeks coming here for Leeds United.
Yeah, it is a big summer for them, missing out on promotion last season under Marcelo Bielsa, who, of course, they managed to keep, which is big news for them. But, Anton, given that Dave finished there with Calvin Phillips, how important is that Leeds tie him down?
I think it's absolutely crucial. I think he was absolutely superb last season, and he's a player that he's had a lot of managers, if you think about it. He's only 23, but he's worked with a lot of coaches, and therefore he's played in a lot of positions at Leeds. He's, even he filled in a centre-back a bit last season, but mainly it was his first real season in that hold midfield role. Christensen pushed him further forward when he played, and he excelled, didn't he? He was definitely one of the standout midfielders, if not the standout midfielder, alongside really McGinn at Villa in the Championship last season. I think he's the kind of player that they can anchor that team around. And I think tying him up, because Villa showed strong interest in him earlier in the summer, but they're not the only club looking at Calvin Phillips potentially certainly this summer or going forward. So for me, he's crucial for Leeds United this season, tying him down, certainly at least for one season, if not long term.
He's a real team player as well, Calvin Phillips, isn't he? Keep your tweets coming in, by the way, Leeds fans. Hashtag transfer talk. We've got one here from Paulinho Haska. Good name. There must be something about Leeds, isn't there? Because they had Ronaldo Vieira, Romario Vieira. Now they've got Paulinho Haska, who's a Leeds fan, who says, for Leeds United to build a real title challenge, they need to replace Jansson at the back, because that's a massive gap. They need a striker who can score every week, as that's what they're lacking. We talked about Kemar Roof, and Patrick Bamford's form really came towards the back end of the season. But in terms of that replacing Vincent Janssen, Pontus Jansson, Mark, it is so key that the Leeds fans liked him. He was a very good player for them, linked with clubs far higher up in the Championship, but now he's gone. So that's got to be on their to-do list, as Dave said.
Yeah, absolutely. Replacing someone who was as instrumental as he was is key. And we've talked about it before on the show, the importance of having a defender, a rock, a leader, someone at the back who can keep calm heads, and someone that can keep everything nice and relaxed is so vital, particularly in a Championship season. But there were some really good points that Dave made there. And I just want to make one other point, which we haven't spoke about, or Dave didn't mention, was Bielsa. Yeah. How important is it to keep him again? Now, this is the manager that has been described by Pep Guardiola as the best in the world. This is someone who's been a mentor to Pochettino and Simeone. The fact that Leeds United and the Championship have got him, hopefully, for a full season ahead, that's massively important as well.
The only concern, I think, is with Bielsa, because it was so exciting. That 5-1 win at Derby at the start of last season was in a 46-game Championship season. Did the legs go a little bit near the end of last season? But it's interesting for me, Pontus Jansson. I mean, obviously, Brentford are doing great things at the moment. They've got the new stadium, which we're driving past all the time. But could Pontus Jansson even have gone to a lower Premier League club as well? I mean, it seemed a strange one for me.
Yeah. So I was going to say, you mentioned the legs in the Leeds team, and Dave mentioned in his preview there earlier about Pablo Hernandez. He's 34 now. And that's, he got 12 goals, 12 assists last season. He was absolutely crucial. But I genuinely think finding another creative player, to sign Helder Costa, who I think is an excellent direct winger, he'll bring a lot of enjoyment to Leeds fans' faces if he can rediscover his form he had when in the promotion season at Wolves. But I think that number 10 role is absolutely vital for Leeds this season, finding somebody that can play behind the front man.
Is that quite indicative of just the way football is at the moment, is that number 10s are so vital? Because it used to be you'd have two strikers, one would drop off and one would stay up there. You might have three central midfielders and one would be able to push on more. But now number 10 can be, in the right formation, a real specialised position. I know Dave mentioned Helder Costa there, but he's more of a winger, isn't he?
He is, and especially the way that Bielsa plays. You know, players have a little bit more freedom of expression, but they're also sort of, you know, there's real demands on them as well. So you need that kind of intelligent, creative player to sort of anchor the team going forward, but also have that mindset of, actually, I need to get back because otherwise my manager's going to really, really go to town on the rest of the squad here. So it's, for me, it's that kind of really clever player, which is why Pablo Hernandez fits that system so well, but he is 34.
Yeah, OK, yeah, keep the tweets coming in. It looks like most of the tweets from Leeds fans are about replacing Pontus Jansson, all right? So that seems like it should be number one on Bielsa's to-do list, according to the fans. Now, how about this on the future of Manchester City winger Leroy Sane? Reported last week that Sane remains Bayern's top transfer target, but their president, Uli Hoeneß, admitted he was not hopeful of securing a deal. He described City's valuation of Sane as insane. It seems as if they aren't giving up. Listen to Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, their chairman now.
The state of things with Sane is that he will return from his holidays this week. While on his vacation, he didn't want to have any talks and wanted to think about his personal plans for the future. We have to wait and see if something will happen. It is no secret that we are searching for a winger after Ribéry and Robben left the club, two players that shaped the face of FC Bayern for many years. We are in charge and we have to wait on how things will develop.
Right, OK, so Bayern Munich not giving up on Leroy Sane just yet. We're going to be talking more about Manchester City at midday, by the way. On this specific deal, Anton, you've got the quotes written down in front of you from Rummenigge. What does this tell us?
It tells us desperation's a strong word, but clearly they really want someone to replace Robben, Ribéry and James Rodriguez in that squad. And that's the real problem, because Bayern Munich weren't particularly convincing in the Bundesliga last season, even though they obviously won it. They weren't particularly convincing in Europe. And, you know, teams have iffy seasons. Bayern Munich can't have iffy seasons, can they? Because they're under so much pressure from the fans. They don't just expect to win the league. They expect to win the league well, and they're terrified about the challenge that's coming from Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund, who have invested in those attacking midfield options as well. You think of the players they've brought in this summer, to add to the likes of Götze and Royce and Sancho as well. So it's all about sort of supremacy, and it shows that clearly terrified of the challenge of Dortmund. Leroy Sane is a target they see. He's obviously, the contract situation is fluid at Manchester City, and he's clearly their top target, even though he will cost a lot of money.
Wouldn't want to see him leave Manchester City at all. Wouldn't want to see him leave the Premier League, JD.
I think it's just that aspect you talk about. No one wants to see an exciting young prospect, probably one of the best young prospects across the whole of Europe, leave the Premier League. And this isn't the first time we've seen Bayern Munich turn around and look to steal one of the bright talents from England. We've seen him do it with Callum Hudson-Odoi as well. So clearly there's a mould that they're looking to do, which is to rebuild. I think it's revamp and go into those exciting young prospects across the whole of Europe. They've probably seen the mould that Borussia Dortmund have taken in terms of investing in Jadon Sancho and think to themselves, we can go and get ourselves our own version of that so we can redevelop, because there is a massive gap, as you say, left by Ribéry and Robben, who are two experienced players but have that fear. That's what it was. It's that element of when you see those names on the team sheet, whether they were starting or not, they always carried that element of, wow, I'm playing against a legend right now.
Right now, could the world's most expensive footballer be on the move for huge money again? Paris Saint-Germain sporting director Leonardo is prepared to sell him after the club released a statement saying they would take appropriate action against the Brazilian after he failed to turn up to training. OK, so what do we know about this, Anton?
Well, obviously, like you said, he wasn't there yesterday for the first day of pre-season training. But look, we understand that Neymar intends to return to training on Monday, next Monday. Source telling us that Paris Saint-Germain were told of his plans in advance because he was injured before the Copa America. Now, this is where the confusion kind of is, because he always intended to go back to Paris 3 weeks after the Copa America. He obviously didn't expect to get injured just before the tournament. So clearly this is where the sort of, the issue is surrounding. Neymar, though, is off working with his own charity in Brazil right now, and he doesn't want to give up those charitable commitments he's already signed up to. He obviously doesn't think it'd be fair on the children, especially involved in that. So it's a bit of a messy situation, considering what we've heard come out of Paris Saint-Germain as well about Neymar's future. You can kind of put two and two together. Is this just an admin sort of cock up, or is this actually something more sinister? Well, I mean, you can make your own decision there, can't you?
I find it quite interesting with Neymar here. If he wants to go, when there's so much money involved in a transfer like this, you have to have planned it for so long, and it seems like he hasn't got anywhere to go as yet. Like we saw with Eden Hazard, it seemed like that was in the pipeline for a long time. But for now, let's just see what's been said about this deal with Dave.
Yes, that is correct. The PSG sporting director Leonardo has spoken to Le Parisien, and this is what he had to say. Neymar can leave PSG if there is an offer which suits everyone. But up to now, we do not know if anyone wants to buy him or at what price. It will not be done in a day. That's for sure. These deals notoriously difficult when there is such a huge sum of money involved. But it's pretty clear what Leonardo is saying there. He can go if there is an offer suitable.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, JD, if there is a suitable offer. With financial fair play, and like I said, it doesn't seem like anybody has planned for this huge outlay. That's going to be quite hard.
I think it's looking into the actual words of what Leonardo is trying to say there. He basically understands that Neymar doesn't want to be here anymore. And there's no point in having your prized possession there who has the ability, because of his power within that dressing room, to be toxic and to disrupt the plans that PSG have set, which would be probably to be successful within Europe. There's no point in having him there if he's not going to be functional and wants to be a part of the team. So not cash in, but it's better off getting two world-class players or players of a similar calibre for Neymar. I think it is the finances that are disrupting the deal from progressing as quickly as we would like, but at the same time, the deal probably will get done.
Yeah.
Just to add to sort of Dave's points just then, also Leonardo said that there has been very sort of tacit talks between Paris Saint-Germain and Barcelona at this stage. So clearly there's interest on the Barcelona side as well. We all know, the reports coming out of Barcelona that the players would love to have him back. Who wouldn't? But who players would love to have him back? And he wouldn't be seen as a disruptive force in that change room if he came back from the players' point of view as well. But as you said, you don't do £200 million transfers overnight, and this one is only going to rumble and rumble for a player that could clearly give so much.
Neymar and Griezmann?
It could work. Oof. Barcelona have already turned around and said structurally, even though financially they probably wouldn't give the money in terms of what they had to pay PSG for Barcelona, but structurally in terms of swap deals and players involved in the deals, finding those minimum release fees the other way, it could work, and Barcelona could structure themselves to actually afford the deal.
Right, let's round a few things up with Dave with state of play.
Yes, these are the rest of the day's headlines. Tottenham are still keen to sign Ryan Sessegnon from Fulham, but they are in no rush to get that deal done. We understand the player is interested in making the move from Fulham to North London, but after making his first signings in 18 months, Mauricio Pochettino may look to move players on before doing any more deals. Philippe Sandler is close to completing a loan move from Manchester City to Anderlecht. That's according to Sky sources. The Belgium club, managed by former City captain Vincent Kompany, had been in talks with City over a deal for Sandler since last week. He was in Belgium yesterday to complete the final parts of the deal. Norwich playmaker Emi Buendia has signed a new 5-year contract with the Premier League club. The 22-year-old Argentine arrived from Spanish side Getafe last summer and proved to be a key member of Daniel Farke's squad, which went on to win Championship promotion. And still no confirmation of the ties to linked to Juventus, but Mauricio Sarri is closing in on the signing of another defender. 21-year-old Christian Romero from Genoa has arrived in Turin ahead of a medical. He's likely to be loaned back to Genoa this season.